Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Bible Trivia. I'll be your host again, Jonathan. I'm excited to jump into this one, looking at the Old Testament today. Let's see how well you know your Old Testament. Let's get started with question 1. From what catastrophe did Joseph save the people of Egypt from? A flood, a famine, or darkness? The answer is a famine. Genesis 41:54. And the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was food. Question 2. Who was paid by the Philistines to betray Samson? Delilah, Deborah, or Daniah? The answer is Delilah. Judges 16:5. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, Seduce him and see where his great strength lies. By what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. And we will give you each 1,100 pieces of silver. Question 3. Jacob had several sons and one daughter. How many sons did he have? 13, 12, or 9? The answer is 12. Genesis 35:23-26 says, Jacob had 12 sons while living in northern Syria. His firstborn Reuben was a son of Leah, who later gave birth to Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Leah's servant Zilpah had 2 sons, Gad and Asher. Question 4. What was the reason as to Cain's murder of Abel? Because the serpent tells him? Because Adam likes Abel more? Because God is more pleased by Abel's sacrifice than by Cain's? The answer is because God is more pleased by Abel's sacrifice than by Cain's. 1 John 3:12. We should not be like Cain, who is of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. Question 5. What did the residents of Babylon try to build in order to anger God? A golden calf, a large tower, or a library? The answer is a large tower. Genesis 11:4 says, Then they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Question 6. Who did Isaac get married to? Is it Rebekah, Hagar, or Esther? The answer is Rebekah. Genesis 24:67 says, Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah his mother and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Question 7. As stated in Exodus, what was the basket of the baby who would become Moses made of? Is it papyrus, willow, or oak? The answer is papyrus. Exodus 2:3 says, But when she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus basket, daubed it with bitumen and pitch, and putting the child in it, placed it among the reeds on the bank of the Nile. Question 8. On what day did God create land? Was it the 6th day, the 5th day, or the 3rd day? The answer is the 3rd day. Genesis 1:10 says, God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Question 9. Who does Jacob bless with his right hand shortly before his death? Ephraim, Manasseh, or Joseph? The answer is Ephraim. Genesis 48:17. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Question 10. What is the structure housing the Ark of the Covenant called? Is it the temple, the tabernacle, or the altar? The answer is the tabernacle. Numbers 7:1 says Moses anointed the tabernacle on the day it was set up. Question 11. Who killed Sisera, the Canaanite general? Was it Samson, Jael, or Jephthah? The answer is Jael. Judges 5:27 says, between her feet he sank, he fell, he lay still. Between her feet he sank, he fell where he sank, there he fell, dead. Question 12. How tall was Goliath? 12 cubits and a span, 8 cubits, or 6 cubits and a span? The answer is 6 cubits and a span. 1 Samuel 17:4 says, and there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Question 13. After Josiah read the law of Moses aloud to the people, what did they celebrate? Was it Passover, Yom Kippur, or Easter? The answer is Passover. 2 Kings 23:21 says, the king commanded all the people, celebrate the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the agreement. Question 14. What name does the narrator of Ecclesiastes take on? Is it teacher, servant, or prophet? The answer is teacher. Ecclesiastes 1:1, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Question 15. In Song of Solomon, who narrates the first poem? Is it the chorus, female lover, or King Solomon? The answer is the female lover. Song of Solomon 1:1-2 says, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. Question 16. The last entry in Proverbs teaches how to find a good what? Is it a cow, a wife, or land? The answer is a wife. Proverbs 31:10-11 says, it is hard to find a good wife, because she is worth more than rubies. Her husband trusts her completely. With her, he has everything he needs. Question 17. With 176 verses, what is the longest psalm? Psalm 127, Psalm 119, or Psalm 176? The answer is Psalm 119. Psalm 119:1 says, blessed are those whose ways are blameless, who walk according to the law of the Lord. And it continues on. Question 18. How many books are there in the Old Testament? Is it 41, 42, or 39? The answer is 39. There are 39 books in the Old Testament, with Genesis being the first and Malachi the last. Question 19. Where did God hand Moses the 10 Commandments? Is it Mount Sinai, Mount Ararat, or Mount Hermon? The answer is Mount Sinai. Exodus 19:2-3. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, and said, this is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. Question 20. How did God first appear to Moses? Was it through a flaming tree, a burning bush, or as an angel? The answer is as a burning bush. Exodus 2:2. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. Question 21. Why did Moses smash the first tablet of God's commandments? Because God told him to? Because the people are worshiping a golden idol? Or because Moses refuses to lead the people any longer? The answer is because the people are worshiping a golden idol. Exodus 32:19 says, when Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. Question 22. What did David bring in order to bless Jerusalem? Was it the body of Moses, the prophet Samuel, or the Ark of the Covenant? The answer is the Ark of the Covenant. 2 Samuel 6:2 says, and David arose and went with all the people who were with him from Ubal, Judah, to bring up from there the Ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, who sits enthroned on the cherubim. Question 23. What was the reason for God rejecting Saul as king? Because Saul does not completely destroy the Amalekites? Because he committed adultery? Or because he killed Samuel? The answer is because Saul does not completely destroy the Amalekites. 1 Samuel 15:23 says, for rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Question 24. In the book of Genesis, what day did God create man? Was it the 4th day, the 6th day, or the 3rd day? The answer is the 6th day. Genesis 1:27 says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Question 25. What animal encourages Eve to eat the forbidden fruit? Was it a bird, a fly, or a serpent? The answer is a serpent. Genesis 3:1 says the serpent was more clever than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. The serpent said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat fruit from any tree in the garden? Question 26. Who is Lot to Abraham? Is it his son, his brother, or his nephew? The answer is his nephew. Genesis 13:8 says, so Abram said to Lot, let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herders and mine, for we are close relatives. Question 27. What did Rachel take of Laban's when she fled Canaan with Jacob? Was it his idols, his sheep, or his wife? The answer is his idols. Genesis 31:19 says Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. Question 28. What is the land flowing with milk and honey as told by God to Moses? Is it Midian, Canaan, or Egypt? The answer is Canaan. Exodus 3:8 says, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Question 29. Before the Israelites took over the city of Ai, who got stoned to death? Was it Achan, Rahab, or Joshua? The answer is Achan. Joshua 7:26 says, "Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore that place has been called the Valley of Acre ever since." Question 30. What weapon did Samson use to kill the Philistines? Was it an axe, a donkey's jawbone, or a millstone? The answer is a donkey's jawbone. Judges 15:19 says, "Holding the jawbone as his attribute, Samson looks upward, perhaps to God. The great strong man slew 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass." Question 31. How did God feed the Israelites in the desert? Was it food from Moses' staff, strange bread-like substance from heaven, or falling fish from the sky? The answer is strange bread-like substance from heaven. Exodus 16:4 says, "And the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions." Question 32. Why does Nathan the prophet rebuke David? Was it because David curses God inadvertently? David killed Nathan's brother? Or David commits adultery with Bathsheba? The answer is David commits adultery with Bathsheba. 2 Samuel 12:10 says, "Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own." Question 33. After Noah built the ark, how long did the rainfall occur? Was it 77 days, 40 days, or 28 days? The answer is 40 days. Genesis 7:12 says, "And rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights." Question 34. What did Moses do that angers God? Kicks dirt on Aaron, throws the rock, or hits the rock? The answer is hits the rock. Numbers 20:11 says, "Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank." Question 35. Which pagan god did the Israelites worship in Numbers? Was it Ashtaroth, Baal, or Azazel? The answer is Baal. Numbers 25:3 says, "In this way Israel joined in the worship of Baal of Peor, causing the Lord's anger to blaze against his people." Question 36. Who is Elisha in the Bible? Was it Elijah's opponent, Elijah's apprentice and successor, or Elijah's son? The answer is Elijah's apprentice and successor. 1 Kings 19:16 says, "And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, you shall appoint to be king over Israel. And Elijah, the son of Shaphat, of Abel-Meholah, you shall anoint to be prophet in your place." Question 37. Why did God get angry and reprimand Job? Was it because Job does not delight in his suffering, because Job heeds the advice of his friends, or because Job uses human knowledge to question God's ways? The answer is because Job uses human knowledge to question God's ways. Job 42 says, "Will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who accuses God answer him." Question 38. What is the name of Adam and Eve's third son? Was it Evan, Seth, or Aden? The answer is Seth. Genesis 4:25 says, "And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. For she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him." Question 39. How many men helped Abraham to defeat the armies that threatened Sodom? Was it 277, 318, or 309? The answer is 318. Genesis 14:14 says, when Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Question 40. What did Joseph place in Benjamin's satchel to test him? Was it a silver cup, a silver spoon, or a golden plate? The answer is a silver cup. Genesis 44:2 says, then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. Great job. That's the end of the quiz. I hope you did well. If not, maybe time to dust off the Old Testament. Let us know in the comments how well you did. Like and subscribe for more. I look forward to hosting another quiz with you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.